All right, good morning, everyone. Happy Friday to you. I don't have much in the way of announcements, but let me just share a couple things with you, and then I'll turn it over to you for questions as usual. So first, make sure you're through lecture 6, and there's two parts to lecture 6, part 1 and part 2. Make sure you're through that ideally by the end of today, but if not, make sure lecture 6 happens by the time we reconvene next Wednesday, because we are going to do an activity in class around SPSS. So it'll be really helpful if you have that installed and ready to go. I owe you a couple things. I owe you some grades and some feedback on quiz 1 and as well as quiz 2, as well as the arithmetic review. So stay tuned. I'm going to be working on all that this weekend. Also, your homework will be posted. I am aiming for the end of today, and then it will be due. I believe it is 9/14. I'm going to double check for you right now. Yes, 9/14, September 14th, okay, by 11:59 p.m. This first homework won't be terribly long, and it will be located on D2L under quizzes. So it'll be a little different than last time. You won't have to print things out and scan them back in and all that kind of stuff. So it should be a little more straightforward in that sense. Okay, that's all I have for you guys. Please feel free to chat in any questions that you have. And it's supposed to be open questions about descriptive statistics today, but really anything that you want to ask about is perfectly fine. If I did already answer your question, that's fine too. And if you're done, please feel free to, you're welcome to hang out. You're welcome to log off as well. And if you are logging off, let me just wish you a very great weekend. Stay safe and stay well, and have a great weekend if you are going to log off. Okay, we have a question coming in. Oh, yeah, you're very welcome. Have a great weekend. Of course, yeah. I'll hang back. It's no problem. Just ask someone saying that they have a question and they're trying to, I think, figure it out. So no problem, no rush. I'm happy to stay and answer your question once you get it formulated. Okay, you have a good weekend too. Faith, it looks like it's just you and me. Feel free to either chat or come off mic, whatever's easier for you once you have your question. Okay, about the kinds of variables, could you just go over them? Because I didn't do well on the quiz. I'm not sure which question I got wrong, but I know there was a question about variable types. Of course, I'm more than happy to do that. So I think that's, let me just share the other, I'm going to change my share to the other lecture with you real quick. Okay, so just to make sure, are we talking about level of measurement, the nominal ordinal interval ratio? Is that what we're talking about here? Yes. Okay, great. Let's talk about it. So, okay, so nominal is, in my mind, the most straightforward one because it's the one that's just categories, no natural order to anything. So like eye color, for example, you know, if I told you 3 people had blue eye color and 4 people had brown eye color and 6 people had green eye color, and then you couldn't like take a mean of that, right? Those numbers aren't really meaningful. They're just categories with words attached to them. So that's when you see that kind of a category variable, you know it's nominal. Ordinal, think of whenever you're talking about first, second, third, fourth, when you're thinking along those lines, it's ordinal. And the reason for that is we can't say what the distance is between things that are ordinal. So like we talked about, like there's first person in a race, second person in a race, right? And maybe the first person in the race finished in 2 minutes flat. Second person in a race finished in 2 minutes, 2 seconds. Third person in a race finished in 6 minutes, 2 seconds. See, just by knowing first, second, third, you didn't know all that additional information. You didn't know that first and second were really close in time, whereas the third person was really far off. And so ordinal just tells you first, second, third. It doesn't give you any information beyond that. Now then we get to the two that I think people confuse the most: interval, equal interval, and ratio. So with interval, we suddenly can tell the difference, the distance between things. Like with measures of temperature, we can say that someone who is in a 60-degree Fahrenheit temperature room is 10 degrees less than someone in a 70-degree Fahrenheit temperature room, and is 10 degrees, the 60-degree Fahrenheit is 10 degrees more than 50 degrees Fahrenheit. See, we can say the distance between 60 and 50 is the same as the distance between 60 and 70, whereas we couldn't do that before. And then finally, ratio is the same as interval, except 0 means the absence of thing being measured. Now, this is where I think sometimes there's some confusion. In other words, does 0 mean the absence? So, like, is 0 degrees Fahrenheit the absence of temperature? No, it's cold. It's not the absence of temperature. Whereas when you're talking about time or weight or height, or I think in the case of the quiz, it might have been amount of coffee, then 0 means the absence of that. There was no coffee. There was no time. There was no weight. So that's how you distinguish between those two. Okay, I'm coming back to chat so I can see if that helped or not. Give me 1 second. Oh, good. Good, good, good. I'm glad that helps a little bit for you to understand the difference between interval and ratio. Um, I will share with you one little quick tip is that interval, whenever you're talking about like a rating measure, which I know we use a lot in psychology, we tend to think of it as interval, not ratio. So maybe that helps too, just something to keep in mind. And I'll just share the reason for that is usually 0 isn't like the absence of mood. It might be a very poor mood on the rating scale. It might not even exist on the rating scale. You might have a rating scale from 1 to 10. So, so that's why rating scales tend to be interval but not ratio. Okay. Anything else I can help you with at this time? Okay, good. I'm glad that clarified a lot with the variable types. And you have a good weekend and holiday too.